Do you remember Overwatch before there was role queue? Do you remember the good old days of goats? Or everybody locking in DPS and others refusing to swap? I've been feeling a little nostalgic lately, and playing my brand new hero shooter video game that's only 8 months old has made me reminiscent of some aspects of Overwatch from the past. Perhaps I'm looking at it through rose-tinted glasses. After all, role queue is looked upon favorably or shittily depending on your experience as a player. Some, a savior. To others, a prison of forced meta, to avoid another goat's dilemma, to keep things in control. Much changed in the Overwatch atmosphere, but whether you like the changes or not, everyone was in agreement about one thing. Man, these queue times fucking suck. Quick play? More like wait 10 minutes while scrolling through your phone play. Competitive? More like if you're above diamond, good luck finding a match before bedtime. Good and bad come with role queue, and soon, so much time had passed, it became an accepted part of the game. It wasn't worth arguing or giving feedback on, it just was. And now, role queue is waiting for its next target. Could that possibly be Marvel Rivals? No. Maybe. If enough people demand it after a lengthy amount of time and sending the developers enough death threats, then the sky's the fucking limit, isn't it? With the power of the internet and fatal feedback, the developers are at the mercy of their own player bases. Even after making their intentions with Rivals known more than once, the debate and desire for role queue to be added to the game has been a long-standing issue since the game's inception. And you can certainly make an argument for or against the concept of role queue using a variety of points that I will attempt to dive into and personally give my own on the matter. For comparison's sake, I will be using Overwatch as an example, only because most people are using Overwatch's history to make arguments for role queue being implemented into the game, as well as against sometimes. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of the video, I just want to quickly say who I am. I'm VexHex. I am sort of an up-and-coming amateur content creator and Twitch streamer, and I'm working on producing content for the game as much as I can. I do hope that you like this video, and thank you for clicking. Now let's get into it. Let's begin with what exactly role queue is. Role queue is selecting the role or roles you wish to play as in an upcoming game. After selecting your roles, you enter the queue and you will be put into a game as one of the roles that you selected. But once the role is chosen, you are stuck on that role for the rest of the game. So if you're having a bad tank game or a bad DPS game, there is no swapping with a teammate and trying something else. You are stuck on that role and you're gonna have to try and make it work. So why role queue? Role queue was first implemented into Overwatch to enforce the most favorable meta by the developers and players alike. An all-rounder meta that had strengths in every role. 2 tanks, 2 DPS, 2 healers. Unlike other compositions such as GOATs, 3 tanks, 3 healers, or the famous help me, I only play Mercy, 5 DPS, 1 healer meta from back during the open queue days. 2-2-2 was viewed as the most favorable and also encouraged by the developers during hero selections. Most people, even during the days of open queue, typically ran 2-2-2 and would swap with one another if performing poorly. The ability to flex was strong if you had other teammates to switch out with. But we haven't quite answered the question yet, have we? Why role queue? Why indeed? And to some, there is no right answer, and to others, there's only one right answer. Some think that it's purely because the devs and player base recognize it as the best meta to play with. Others think it's because the player base got increasingly frustrated with insta-lock DPS refusing to swap to tank or healer, and the devs caved and ended the DPS apocalypse with role queue. But real ones know the truth. It was to stop the domination of GOATs and a way to keep the devs from making massive changes to their ever-growing in power support lines. Do I even have to say the demon's name for you to know of whom I speak? Don't worry, I won't bring her here or her like by uttering the devil's name. There is a slew of videos and topics on why this character and other support designs in Overwatch 1 had such a tremendously negative impact on the game, how it made GOATs rise to power, and why the devs chose to force 2-2-2 in lieu of nerfing supports. but if I got into all of it, we'd be here forever. Plus, this isn't an Overwatch video. It's just really hard to talk about role queue and Rivals direction without bringing up Overwatch and its history. So let's get back on topic. It's really important to focus on one of those reasons, the one the community brings up the most, especially in regards to Rivals. A lot of people, particularly the Reddit communities, are under the impression that it was purely due to player frustration on insta-lock DPS and people refusing to swap. So we're going to be running with this argument, particularly when it comes to Rivals. After Rivals' initial release, a major portion of players were former and current Overwatch players, and they got a really firm reminder of what things were like when the game was still open queue. If you go to the subreddit right now, I'm willing to bet that if you search by DPS, you would watch a plethora of posts since minute one complaining and bitching and whining about insta-lock DPS ruining games, or being forced into position of constantly having to run tank or healer because the DPS on your team refuses to swap. It was considered to be one of the worst aspects of the game, and pushed quite a few people back to Overwatch, into the safety of their beloved role queue, a place where those mean or rotten insta-locking DPS can't hurt them. And in fairness, they weren't completely in the wrong. In the beginning, it was actually kind of easy to laugh at. The game was brand new and the duelist category was packed with everybody's favorite heroes. It was a no-brainer that everybody would be wanting to insta-lock DPS. There was Spider-Man, Black Panther, Iron Man, Wolverine, Moon Knight. Some of the coolest and most popular Marvel characters were in this role. For myself and many others, it was just kind of a waiting game. Waiting until everybody got bored or until people's desires to win overcame their desire to go 5 and 15 on Spider-Man. And then, that day never really seemed to come. Personally, I don't find it as awful as it used to be, but that doesn't mean it never happens or it isn't more prevalent for others. I have had games ruined by insta-locking DPS players that refuse to swap to something more useful. So I can understand why there's been a player-driven push to force role queue into the game. But that begs the question, what do the developers have to say about this? Well, I already answered that in the beginning. No, the simple short answer. But the longest answer is because the devs desire to see more experimental team composition play out, especially in regards to Rivals' unique mechanic of team-ups, bonus powers and stat increases when characters sharing team-ups are selected on a team together. Sure enough, I've seen a variety of team comps work against the preferable 2-2-2. I've been in my fair share of 1-3-2, 3-1-2, or 2-1-3 style comps and still managed to win the game. I've even seen a team go 0-5-1 and win against us. I've been on teams running all DPS against 2-2-2 and still win. It isn't impossible, and the characters in the game have a variety of unique abilities to get past the 2-2-2 compositions. If you try hard enough, anything can work. It's actually quite nice. It's interesting to watch this experimentation play out, even at the cost of player satisfaction. Due to this, role queue is not really considered to be something that the devs wish to add. So with those important bits out of the way, I think I can better answer where I lie on this personally. So while I can understand the desire to see role queue implemented to alleviate frustration and always feel like there's a fair chance, I don't quite think I'm ready to give in just yet. We're still early on in the game's life cycle, only 8 months, and I think it's important to remember that this is not Overwatch. As much as we draw comparisons and we do have a blueprint for a working hero shooter, this still isn't that game. It's got its own identity and it's going to have its own solutions. And for the moment, before they add in better or cooler or more interesting vanguards and strategists, that solution is you caving in to the social pressure of being the one who selects strategist or vanguard. You who answers the call to aid when no one else does. In this infernal chaotic chasm is where true strategists and vanguard mains are created, transformed, molded by it. I think it's actually quite rare for someone to be born with the innate desire to be the frontline leader of a team, or someone to be the backlining healer. I think it takes being the one to say, enough is enough, and picking up the reins yourself. At least, that's how it was for me personally, all the way back since Overwatch. I was a DPS player at heart, and I always ended up in situations where I knew that we needed something. Another tank or another healer. Sometimes I was the only one, but I knew someone had to pick this. And when no one else did it, I did it. And look, I get I'm coming off a little bit dramatic, but it's actually kind of cool when you think about how tank and healer mains are made. I think these non-self-serving roles are kind of reserved for people that care more about their own personal success. And when you find DPS players that swap out of rage and they selfishly play a healer or tank in the worst, most toxic ways, it's easy to see that's not really what they mean. And before you accuse me of simping for tanks or healers or saying that they aren't above being toxic, I do think they can be. I mean, it happens all the time. Actually, in Rivals, I have worse interactions with healers, like Hook and Dagger, more than I do DPS. Even similarly on Overwatch, where the Mercy Mafia will break into your home and snap your legs for daring to besmirch their golden-haired goddess. All in all, what I'm trying to get through is that I understand the desire for role queue, but I'm not ready for Rivals to go down that path. I like my fast queue times. I love the fact that I can play 10 games and it hasn't been 8 hours. I love that when I want to play a quick match, I'm in within minutes after hitting the launch button. I love that mid-game, if I'm not feeling my role or someone else isn't, we can swap it out. Some games have been clutched by the ability to do this, and I love when unconventional compositions win out against triple healer or 2-2-2. I love proving people wrong through sheer determination and pure fucking will. It's fun. The game is fun. It has no need to be solved yet. Yes, Overwatch is a blueprint to Overwatch, and sometimes it's good to stop and consider their history and reflect on it, but it's not a guideline on the absolute. I don't agree with everything that the devs do, but they do listen, and they communicate often, and I can appreciate and respect that. After 6 months, I can understand a lot of complaints. Hell, my previous video was addressing a lot of the negative feedback and stale accusations and talking about slow development time possibly harming the game, but I wish I'd ended it on a more positive note, so I'll be rectifying that here a bit. After 6 months, things haven't been perfect, but I want to place my good trust on the team so far. They have listened and answered and spoken out. Role queue is not a fix for bad teammates or losing games. I think we can get by without it, especially as the roster continues to expand. Just like the ending to my last video, I want to reiterate that this is really just a waiting game and we've got more pressing issues than role queue right now. Still, I'd love to have my mind changed. If you feel like role queue is important or needs to be added, tell me your thoughts below. I'm always willing to be challenged. But that's all I've got for now. Thanks so much for checking this out. If this was an interesting watch or you enjoyed yourself, please feel free to leave me a like. If you want to provide your feedback or tell me off personally, you're also welcome to join my Discord server and send your death threats there. I've also got a Twitch I announce when I go live, and I'd love to see you in my streams. Thank you, and have a good night.